Hi, this is Mr. West, and right now you are watching an Expressions and Equations 6-1 walkthrough video from Math-Salamanders.com. Make sure to check out all the resources available on Math-Salamanders. Tons of great ones. Love that website. So let's talk here. This is talking about expressions and equations. What is the difference? Well, I'm going to do the expressions in blue and the equations in green. One of the key things I want to talk about before we get started is with expressions, we are going to evaluate these. You can also simplify expressions, but in this case, I think most of these are evaluate. And then for solve, that is only for equations. You can't solve an expression, you can only solve equations, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm gonna try to do those in green. So the first one, what is the value? Notice how it says, what is the value? It's not asking to solve, it's just asking to evaluate, in other words, of the expressions 3a when a equals 7. One of the first things you need to understand about 3a is it means 3 times whatever the value of a is. A is a variable. We don't know what its value is until it tells us, like in this case, a equals 7, or we solve it in equation, but not for an expression. So 3 times a is what it's saying here, so we're going to rewrite it as 3 times a, but because it tells us that a equals 7, what we're going to do is we are going to substitute that value in. I like to call it plug in, but really what it is it's substituting. So instead of writing 3 times a, I'm going to be writing 3 times 7. Well, guess what? I can calculate that. I know 3 times 7 equals 21, and that is going to be my answer. So 21 is my answer to number 1. I evaluated it. I found the value. Number 2 is an equation. It says solve it, okay? That means we need to find the value. It doesn't tell us the value, but we can find it. But it gives us some more parameters so we can kind of work backwards. So we know that, let's change to green, 5 times something equals 35. That's another way to consider variables. They're essentially a question mark. They're an unknown value, but we can figure that out. So we know that 5 times question mark equals 35. So I'm going to kind of go from beginner to more advanced as this video progresses. A lot of you might not be able to conduct some of the algebraic operations, or you can do the math without the algebra, but I'm going to show you just kind of going from the start. So another way to consider this, 5 times blank equals 35. You could go to your multiplication table and just look up what do you multiply 5 by to get 35. So we know that's 7. We know that 7 times 5 equals 35, but it's asking us what is the value of b. That's what it means to solve. So b equals 7. So instead of writing 5 times b, we can write 5 times 7. So we know that b and 7 are equivalent. They're equal. So there's my answer. We want to solve for the variable. That means find the variable's value. Now we're back to expression. Write the expression that matches the statement 5 more than c. Okay, so this one we're not evaluating. We're just changing this to a word. So 5 more than c. So if you see the letter c, that's what we're going to do. And we want 5 more than c. Well, guess what? We're just going to add 5 to it, okay? 5 more, essentially that means add. That's a bad add sign, addition sign, but it means add and then 5 more than c, okay? It's not a than symbol, greater than symbol. That's something else, okay? That's a common mistake I see. All right, number 4, what is the value of the expression 2d minus 3 when d equals 7? I changed to green thinking it was going to be an equation, but it's not. This is another expression, and this time we're given that 2d minus 3 when d equals 11. So what I like to do is I like to just rewrite the expression first. There's my expression, and then I change it to represent what the substitution is. I'm going to be plugging in this 11 for d. So I have 2 times 11 minus 3. Be careful here. You need to do order of operations. That means multiplication first. That means I do 2 times 11. That's 22. And then I'm going to subtract 3. So 22 minus 3, that gives me 19. That is the value. We just evaluated it, okay, of the expression. We don't solve expressions. We evaluate them. Solve the equation. All right, back to green. We're doing an equation. E minus 12 equals 19. Okay, so let me kind of introduce something here. First off, we could say to ourselves, something minus 12 equals 19, okay? So we can go backwards. We know that if we're subtracting and we get 19, that this number is definitely bigger than 19. Well, how much bigger than 19 is E? E minus 12 equals 19. If we subtract something from this number, okay, from this, that's blue, from this number, we know it has to be bigger than 19, right? Something big minus 12 equals 19. So how do we do it? Well, this is the option, and if this is advanced for you, don't worry about it. You might be able to say, hey, I know it's got to be 12 bigger. 12 bigger than 19 is 31. So you could say, oh, e equals 31 and do it that way, okay? But if you're going to learn algebra, the best way to do it is you think, okay, I'm going to go backwards. Instead of subtracting 12, I know e's got to be 12 bigger than 19. I'm going to add 12. And something to keep in mind, if we have an equation, we have to keep it balanced. So we have this like little separation on the equal sign, and we have to do the same thing to both sides. If that's too advanced and too much information, don't worry about it. I just wanted to show that this is how algebra works, okay? So I'm going to erase here. Now I have my equal sign. E equals 19 plus 12. Well, that equals 31, and that's going to be my answer, 31. Whoops, e equals 31. I solved it. Okay, I found the value of the variable. Let's do a few more. I don't want this video to be incredibly long. Let's skip down to maybe some division. What is the value of the expression? Here we go. 1/2 g when g equals 12. Well, what's 1/2 g mean? It could mean 1/2 times g like that, or 1/2 g like that. Okay, so 1/2 times g. Some of my students get really confused with that 1/2. They don't like the fraction. You could always do this. Well, first off, let's substitute. So we're going to substitute this value in for g. So we have 1/2 times 28. My students get confused with that. One way you can do to rectify that situation is you can do 28 over 1 and multiply it. Then we do top times top, bottom times bottom. Then you think, okay, we can simplify this fraction, or we could treat this like division. 28 divided by 2. Well, I know that's 14, and that happens to be my answer, okay? Or you could just say, anytime I multiply 1/2 of something, it means divide by 2. That's another way to consider that. So I know 28 divided by 2 is 14. All right, let's talk about another one. Let's talk about solve the equation. We'll do the one right below it. This is going to be kind of advanced how I talk about it. So we have h divided by 3 equals 12. Something, okay, we could leave this a blank or a question mark, divided by 3, equals 12. It's got to be a number bigger than 12, right? So if we divide by 3, we're splitting it into 3 equal groups. So it's got to be bigger than 12. You could make 3 groups here, and you could put 12 in each group, and you could count them all up. That'd be one way to do this problem. That takes a long time. Or you could think, if we divide by 3, how can we go backwards to find the bigger number? We'd have to multiply by 3. So you could do 12 times 3, and we get 36. 36 divided by 3 equals 12. You could use your multiplication table for this, or we could use some algebra. Let me show you how that works real fast. We have h divided by 3 equals 12. So if we want to get rid of the divide by 3, we got to do the opposite. Okay, we know it has to be bigger, so we are going to multiply both sides by 3. And the reason why that works is because if we have 3 divided by 3, which we can rearrange using the commutative property of multiplication, we have 3 divided by 3. I need to change this multiplication over here. 3 divided by 3, I know that's equal to 1. H times 1 equals 12 times 3. I'm just doing some rearranging here, and then h times 1 is just h, or 1h, and then I have 12 times 3 is 36. That's how you would use algebra for this. And again, this is just an intro, so if that is too much, just stick to what you know for now. Learn the algebra later. Let's do one more, maybe one from the bottom that's a little tougher. Looking here. Ooh, how about number 15? This is an expression one. Write the expression that matches the statement. Double O and then add 1. What does that mean? Double O and then add 1. We're going to do 2 things here. So doubling, first off, when we're doubling something, we are multiplying by 2. So we have 2 times O, and then we're add 1. That language is clear. Make sure it's not looking like a 0, so write it a little bit like more circular, not like a 0. So then how do I make it look even better? Instead of 2 times O, I'm going to write 2 and then O, and then plus 1, okay? And that would be my final answer. If you guys need any of these other questions done, I know we went quick and there was a couple questions we didn't get to, please leave a comment on which question you need help with and I'll answer it for you. And I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Wes Explains Best.